This is Thersa Matsuura, and you're listening to Uncanny Japan. Let's pretend it's, I don't know, the year 300 and something, and you're a peasant living in the Japanese village of Hyomo, way up on top of Mount Dewagahira in Gifu. You have been tasked with the job of keeping the monkeys away from the crops. You're really good at it too. The best monkey keeper awayer the village has ever seen. Your method is something like this. You walk the perimeter of the field, armed with a stick. When any of the nasty little beasts descend, you chase after them, swinging your weapon and screaming like a mad person. They scamper away, knowing not to mess with you. A job well done. Well, on this particular day, after you've shooed away the usual number of hungry chimps, there is a huge racket in the distance. It sounds as if part of the mountain itself has fallen away. You, as well as the rest of the villagers, hurry over to see what's happened. You find that part of the mountain has indeed fallen away, revealing a large gaping hole. Well, that's never happened before. Curious, you and the others creep closer to investigate, when all of a sudden, from the cave emerges a 6-meter, almost 20-foot tall man creature. But not your ordinary 6-meter tall man creature. This one has 2 faces. A normal one, where you'd usually find a face, then a second one on the back of his head, facing the opposite direction. It's almost as if you took 2 giant people and pressed them together back to back, merged them. Because he also has 4 arms and 4 legs. But it gets worse. The giant is wearing armor and carrying a halberd. All hell breaks loose. Everyone gathered is screaming and running around. You're frozen. You gawk and drop your stick. This man creature draws himself to his full height and looks down, clears his throat, then loudly announces that his name is Sukuna. He goes on to say, "Be not afraid. I have appeared in this world to protect the Buddhist law and uphold the law of the rulers. I am here to serve." Now, amidst this utter chaos of villagers panicking, you keep your wits about you. You go over and prostrate yourself in front of the giant. "I wish to obey your command, but your stature is too large for my humble abode." Understood. Sukuna forms his hand into a special sacred mudra and instantly shrinks and transforms into an 11-faced Kannon statue. You gently and respectfully pick up the effigy and carry it back to the village of Hyomo, where you keep it in your house. In time, you ditch the monkey chasing gig and build a hermitage to serve Sukuna. Okay, that's my rendition of one of the tales of this mysterious and powerful god or beast, there is some confusion, named Sukuna, or Ryomen Sukuna, Sukuna of the 2 faces. Full disclosure, the monkey chasing thing wasn't part of the story, but the rest of it is. So today, let's talk about this 2-faced, 8-limbed, multi-weaponed giant, Ryomen Sukuna. Would you like to explore the stranger, more obscure corners of Japanese culture? dig a little deeper into superstitions, curious customs, and all those mysterious creatures that inhabit the land? If so, then this is the podcast for you. Uncanny Japan is where I, author Thersa Matsuura, share all the fascinating tidbits I unearth while doing research for my writing. From the bizarre to the ghastly, and everything in between. I hope you enjoy the show. Hey, how are you? I wanted to start off by giving a big thank you to everyone who has pre-ordered the Book of Japanese Folklore. I don't want to jinx it, so knock on wood. But for the past couple of weeks, different versions of it, either the hardcover or the Kindle, have been #1 on the new release Amazon bestseller list for either Mythology and Folklore Tales Literary Criticism or Mythology and Folklore Encyclopedias. So thank you and big hugs, because those pre-sales can't all be my mom, can they? Okay. Tell me more about this two-faced giant, and I will. Anyone who is familiar with the manga and anime Jujutsu Kaisen by Gege Akutami knows the name Ryomen Sukuna. The gist there is that high school student Yuji Itadori joins a secret society of sorcerers. But he's no Harry Potter, because, long story short, Yuji-kun ends up eating one of Sukuna's cursed mummified fingers, making him the host for this supervillain, Ryomen Sukuna, who has absolutely no redeeming qualities, it seems. I haven't read or watched Jujutsu Kaisen, but I did check out a rundown of the first season on YouTube, and it sounds really fun, and I think that if I had more time, darn it, I'd give it a read or a watch. I'm quite intrigued. That said, is it a fair depiction to show Sukuna as so entirely evil and unredeemable? I mean, the story I started out with doesn't portray him that way. He turned into a statue of the benevolent and wholly compassionate Kannon. So what do you think? Let's dig in. The Sukuna story is incredibly old, first appearing in the Nihon Shoki, which you'll remember was written in the 8th century. There's a short entry that goes something like this. In the 65th year, under the reign of Emperor Nintoku in Hida country, there was a man. His name was Sukuna. He had one body and 2 faces, one on the back of the other, so that they faced in opposite directions. The body too had 4 arms and 4 legs. The legs had knees, but no heels. He was extremely powerful, yet agile, and carried a sword on both his left and his right sides. He could also use a bow and arrow in any of his 4 hands. He did not obey imperial orders and enjoyed plundering people. Because of that, the ancestor of Wani-uji, Naniwa no Neko Takefuru Kuma, was sent to kill him. That's it. How could they leave us hanging like this? But don't worry, his story doesn't end there. Here's a similar legend to the first one I told. In this one, though, the temple is actually named. It's Senkoji in Gifu Prefecture, and it's a real place. A tiny aside about Senkoji Temple, because I was reading and I gasped out loud. The temple is said to have been founded by Ryomen Sukuna, who lived at the foot of the mountain 1,600 years ago. During the Heian era, it received the patronage of the imperial court, and it flourished. It had 19 sub-temples on the mountain, and an absolute wealth of scrolls, scriptures, statues, artwork, and important kasa, Buddhist robes. They were all enshrined there. Well, in 1564, during the Sengoku, or Warring States period, along comes the Takeda army from Kai. They invaded Hira, where Senkoji and all those precious temples and Buddhist items were located, and they burned it all down, lit the entire mountain on fire. Everything was destroyed, except someone managed to save the main deity, which I'm guessing is the Kannon statue. To this day, it's still kept secret, but every 7 years there's a special ceremony for it. The temple and sub-temples were rebuilt little by little over time. So I'm sitting here imagining the absolute horror of being a monk on the mountain when you're suddenly surrounded by fire and you're trying to escape with your life, but also save some of the precious items. Anyway, the following tale, dated 1621, states that during the reign of Nintoku, there was a person named Sukuna who emerged from a cave in Dewagahira. He was 18 meters tall and had 2 faces, 4 arms, and 4 legs. He was believed to be an incarnation of the Bodhisattva Kannon and actually founded the Senko temple. It was also at this time, at the top of the mountain, a sealed box containing part of the Lotus Sutra, a Buddhist robe, and a statue of the Senju 1,000-armed Kannon was unearthed. But that's not all. This 2-faced, 8-limbed wonder also founded the nearby Zenkyuji temple, and another one too. There he was described as appearing wearing armor, holding a spear in one hand, a regular staff in another hand, an octagonal cypress staff in his third hand, and an axe in that fourth one. And I bet that was a sight. This version of Ryomen Sukuna was said to have been ordered by the emperor to defeat an oni named Shichino, which means 7 perils, who lived near Mount Iyama in Takayama City, which he did. Some hair from the demon was procured and is still in existence today. It's one of the sacred treasures of the area. Still another variation of the tale, the Kinzan history, says that there was a powerful local person named Sukuna who heard that Takefurikuma was coming after him to murder him. So he left Dewagahira and stayed on the sacred mountain Kinzan for 37 days. After this, he moved to another mountain and barricaded himself there, but alas, he was killed. A slightly different take on this one is that he literally flew from one mountain to the next, where he chanted the Dainichi-kyo Sutra for 37 days. What was he praying for? Why, the safety of the nation and abundant harvests, of course. There are also tales of Sukuna defeating a poisonous dragon and stabbing a cane or a staff into the ground, from which grew 1,000 cypress trees. So in the Gifu region, Sukuna-sama is deified and believed to be the founder of Buddhism. Only, Buddhism arrived in Japan in the 6th century, and the Sukuna legend happened in the 4th. So go figure. So why the bad rap? Well, let me tell you about an urban legend. Those are always fun. Goes like this. One day during the Taisho era in Iwate Prefecture, a team was dismantling an old temple when they came across a 2-meter-long, dark wooden box. It had old, torn, and faded paper on it, and it was nailed shut. The workers asked the site manager, "What do we do?" The site manager called the head abbot and said, "What do I do?" The head abbot said, "Whatever you do, don't open it. Don't even touch it. Don't even look at it. I'll be there tomorrow morning to retrieve it." So the site manager tells the workers to leave it alone. But the next morning, he shows up to find that everyone is gathered around. What happened? It seems 2 of the part-time employees got there early and opened the box. They were there now, sitting on the floor, totally spaced out, drooling, and non-responsive. A quick aside, most versions of the story that I read say that these 2 were foreigners, and I mention it because it's part of the legend, but I'm going to believe that that bit of information isn't to be prejudiced against foreigners, but just to give a valid reason why someone would open the box. Maybe there was a miscommunication or cultural difference or something. Anyway, The site manager goes over to the now open box, and he sees the horrific mummy inside. 2 heads and 4 arms. The monk arrives, sees the box has been opened, and is livid. After the site manager explains what happened, the head monk goes, "Well, those 2 are beyond saving, but I'll perform a purification ritual on all of you. It might help a little bit." Which he did. His last words upon leaving the place, "I'm so sorry for all of you. None of you will live long lives." That night, one of the part-time workers who opened the cursed box has a heart attack and dies. The other ends up in a psychiatric ward where he spent the rest of his days. Of the other employees, one came down with a mysterious high fever, and another stepped on a nail and needed 5 stitches. Among the faded words on the washi paper that had been glued to the top of the box were Ryomen Sukuna. The site manager did some research and found that this Sukuna fella was a strangely shaped kijin, the characters for Oni, demon, and God, so demon god. This Sukuna was from a race of people called the Sukuna Zoku, who refused the rule of the emperor and were wiped out. Remember that for later. So the site manager didn't like that idea, so he did a little more investigation, and he found a story that was a bit different. Evidently, during the beginning of the Taisho era, a pair of conjoined twins was born in Iwate, where they lived, but they were eventually sold to a misemono. Remember I talked about them back in episode 84? It's kind of like an old-fashioned carnival or freak show. Another aside, it's gonna get a little violent and over-the-top gross here, dare I say a bit silly, in just a minute, so heads up. So, after some years, the twins become young adults, and along comes an evil rich person who purchases them and takes them to his lair. Okay, I say lair, it's probably not a lair, it's probably his house, but what happens next sounds like a lair. There, he has several other people that he's also bought throughout the years from other misemono across the country, and they're all imprisoned, or tied up in some way. The twins are the final piece to his wicked plan, to make the strongest and most deadly curse. And this is how he's going to do it. First, he'll have the prisoners all fight each other, a la Battle Royale or Hunger Games, but think more enclosed space and cannibalism. Second, he'll save the last one standing, judging them to be the strongest. This happens to be the twins. Next, just to be even more of a psychopath, he locks them in a different room and starves them to death. He plans to make what he says is a sokushinbutsu, not a real one, mind you. Remember I talked about sokushinbutsu in one episode, real-life monks who would request to be locked away as not to eat, and all they did was meditate and eventually gain enlightenment in death. Not the same thing at all, but crazy evil guy is crazy evil. After the poor twins pass away, to put icing on the proverbial nightmare cake, our wicked villain somehow digs up a bunch of ancient bones, grinds them up, and stuffs them inside the dead body. And what was this curse that he conjured? Well, adding some more drama to the whole thing, he wrote in his own blood that he wanted to destroy Japan. Ironically enough, a whole bunch of catastrophes occurred during the Taisho era, which was only 14 years long, 1912 to 1926. There was the Sakurajima eruption, the Akita big earthquake, a coal mine explosion, the Great Fire of Hakodate, the Great Flood of eastern Japan, a large avalanche that killed many, and last and the biggest tragedy was the Great Kanto earthquake, where at least 120,000 people died and was described as a burning hell. So I don't know, maybe it worked. And maybe that's also why the manga Jujutsu Kaisen show Sukuna in such a bad light. I mean, that'll do it. But a more sober and also sad explanation runs along the same lines as the Tsuchigumo, which I actually talk about more in detail in the Book of Japanese Folklore. Basically, there's a legend about a giant deadly yokai spider. But also, the word Tsuchigumo, or dirt spider, was a derogatory name for a race of people who didn't obey or recognize the emperor and were completely destroyed. Similarly, there was probably a group of people living in eastern Japan way back in the day, and they resisted the Yamato court. One of their leaders was probably extremely strong, and maybe they were brothers who looked alike, or perhaps twins who fought together. But he or they were eventually killed, and their memory carried on through story. So what do you think? Benevolent defender of Buddhism? Poor, tortured, conjoined twins who were forced to deliver a curse that really messed Japan up? Or a historical real hero? I don't know, but you'll find them even today in all kinds of manga and anime. I already mentioned Jujutsu Kaisen, but there's also Jigoku Sensei Nube, Maho Sensei Negima, Ultraman Taiga, Grand Blue Fantasy, and even Doraemon, Volume 1. So there you have Ryomen Sukuna. Alrighty then, that's all for today. Everyone stay safe and well, and I will talk to you again in 2 weeks. Bye-bye. You've reached the end of the show, and I just want you to know how much we appreciate you listening and supporting us. Any subscribing, reviewing, and gushing to your friends, family, even random strangers really does help keep us going. If you have the means and you want to help a little more and get a little more, we are making extra content over on Patreon, all for only $5 a month. Or if you like to read horror, you might be interested in my Bram Stoker-nominated short story collection, The Carp-Faced Boy and Other Tales. 本当にありがとうございます. Thank you again, and I'll talk to you real soon.
はい、終わりでした。猿が去れ。